Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is miahtheking, and I was wondering why the frisbee kept getting bigger and bigger, but then it hit me. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Infection-Free-Zone, a post-apocalyptic zombie survival base building kind of game, developed by Jutsu Games and published by Games Operators, released in early access and selling for $25. And I guess it's post-apocalyptic week. I mean, if yesterday and today's videos are any indication, and who knows what I might be recording tomorrow, if anything, which hopefully I will be. Well, whatever, let's get into this. I've had this game on my wishlist for a very long time, and I am very excited that it's finally released, so I jumped on this one as quick as I could. So in this game, you play as the leader of a group of survivors. A virus broke out, and they named it the Mad Virus, and it doesn't exactly make them zombies, it makes people incredibly aggressive and bloodthirsty and lose their minds. The game itself says that they're probably more like vampires than we would assume them to be zombies. Anyway, it spreads via planes very quickly throughout the world, and within the years, the world was destroyed. Everyone takes to hiding underground in old bunkers or garages or whatever that was safe that they could turn into a place to live, or to survive, basically. Yeah. Years later, an unknown person or entity spreads a message across the airwaves saying that the worst is behind us and it's time to resurface, search for survivors, and rebuild. And that's where the game begins. And for the sake of my sanity, I'd rather just call them zombies for this review, despite the fact that they're actually called the Infected. Just easier for me in the long run. So as always, let's go into the good and the bad, followed by my final thoughts. Up first, let's talk about the good of this game. So the first positive that I want to point out is the look of the game. Granted, the graphics aren't the best, obviously. For a game like this, I'm not expecting it to look next-gen or super awesome, yet somehow it still kind of does. Its attention to detail, its color choices, and its contrast, the lighting and the tonal shifts, I mean, just the overall tone itself is intense and awesome. Now, it does sometimes have some issues with lighting in some situations, I'm not going to lie. For the most part, it does look good, but there are those times where it hurts the eyes and makes everything hard to distinguish. Mostly when it shifts to its version of night vision, or whenever there are adverse weather effects. Luckily, these pass by fairly quickly or they don't put too much on you, so it's not that big a deal, but it's still a pain on the eyes. However, for the most part, the game looks very good for what it's trying to portray, and so that's why I wanted to make mention of it. Next up for the positives is the sound design. First off, the music is properly creepy and fits the theme perfectly. Very perfectly appropriate for a basic zombie survival idea. It's not overbearing or awkward or cringy. It matches the mood and what's happening on screen and sounds perfect as background noise. But then let's talk about the voice acting. There's far more voice acting here than I would have anticipated, and it's all fairly well done. Unlike the last game I took a look at, here none of the voice actors seem misplaced or awkward. And then you've got the sound effects and the ambiance. The ambiance is great. I mean, you can hear the wind, the rain, the zombies in the distance, cars starting up, gunshots, people screaming. The list goes on of all the sound effects and how they all just sound perfectly appropriate for the game. And if you know anything about good game design, you need to have good sound design. It's the best, it's not the best part, but it's one of the good parts of the game that have to be good to really pull you in, and this game does that fairly well. The next thing I want to make mention of is the gameplay, and the first thing I want to talk about here is the game's super cool level design system. So basically, the game offers a unique feature of allowing you to create your own map to play in. They use a unique program that allows you to pick any city in the world to play in, and the game will generate the map to the best of its ability to match that city as it is today. This is so freaking cool. I picked New York City, New York as my first level just to see if it worked and what it would look like, and it was awesome. Then I picked some random small town. Never lived in either of these places, but whatever. I just wanted to see how it worked, and it did. What I'm going to show you now, and what you're looking at now, is two levels side by side, so you can see they're not the same level, and look at how different they are. Each one was separately generated, played at 2 different times, and it's crazy. This is freaking awesome. So, like, if you happen to live in Dallas, Texas, and you happen to know where all the gun shops are located, you could generate this map based on that location, take your squads and have them go to where you yourself know the gun shops used to be there, and they have a higher chance of scavenging guns if you bring them to the same buildings. Like, that's just so cool. As for the rest of the gameplay, it's also pretty freaking amazing. So, you can't build buildings, not in typical city builder or strategy games, and I'm okay with that. Instead, you repurpose old buildings from the old world, but you can also deconstruct them for resources. You can build defenses, cut trees, scavenge pretty much anything, and all this is done with uncontrollable civilians living within your group. But you also get squads that you can personally command. These are your fighting units. They go out and clear buildings, they fight the zombies, and scout out ahead to make sure it's safe for others. As you play the game, you'll get random radio contact from your squads, which I love, your advisors, your people, or strangers requiring you to make decisions or just keep yourself appraised of the situation and help you feel more immersed like you really are the leader of this last civilization. You can recover old vehicles and use them to drive around and store more resources than your squad could ever carry alone. You can build a warehouse, research building, a factory for building your own guns, all in these repurposed buildings from the old world. And every night, the infected might come to try and attack you, and you need to fight them off. But if you're quiet and don't do anything, they also might just pass you by. The overall design here is unlike anything I've ever played before. The unique way they go about surviving in this new world is something so different, and I love every minute of it. There's so much in this gameplay that I could keep going on and on about, but, you know, I'd always be missing something or forgetting something or maybe even describing it wrong or just not getting my point across clearly. So I'm just going to move on to the next positive and let you guys know that the gameplay here is phenomenal. The innovative, creative idea here is the next positive, plus the player retention. This is a first game. This is a first game in a long time that I absolutely didn't want to just get off playing and do something else. I did not want to stop playing. I want to go right back into it because of its addictive nature, its unique level design, and its overall quality. I want to see other maps. I want to see how far I can go. The idea is so creative and so interesting. Plus, the game has its own lore, its own story to tell, and its own look at how a post-apocalyptic world like this might go down. It's original, creative, interesting, and intuitive. The next thing that I want to talk about is the tutorial and the user interface, perhaps the controls as well. I mean, the key bindings are a bit awkward. Some buttons don't work like you'd expect them to. The camera control is a bit awkward as well. I want to use the middle mouse button to rotate, not Q and E. However, the rest of the user interface, controls, and whatnot is simple to navigate, easy to understand, and the UI, in my opinion, looks pretty good too. Then you've got the tutorial, which teaches you what does what and how to play the game, all without giving you a shit ton of text or confusing you or pulling you out of the game. And it's done in the context of story missions, so you're learning how to play the game while it already feels like you're in the midst of playing the game. Very well done. This is how I like to see tutorials done in video games. Last but not least is the price tag. I don't have much to say here, except that this game is cheaper than the game I played yesterday, and in my opinion, it's worth more than that game. This game should definitely be $30, not $25, maybe even $35. I mean, you got the amount of replayability, the player immersion, the player retention, the overall gameplay quality, and the quality of its design as a whole is just phenomenal. And honestly, that price tag just furthers my impression that this game is worth it, not to mention its stability, its user interface, its voice acting, its sound design, all of that stuff. Like, that price tag is beautiful for a game of this quality. Alright, so that's all the positives I gotta talk about. Up next is the negatives. But before that, I could really use your help. Small channels that don't get a lot of views can only get more noticed and get bigger if they get a lot of views. Kind of a paradox, right? Well, you can help solve this annoying paradox. If you like, comment, and subscribe, it helps a lot with fixing that weird paradox. But you know what really helps? Spreading the word and sharing my content and my channel online. So if you found this video informative, or if I made you laugh, or if you found it entertaining at least, then please consider helping my channel grow. Thank you. Okay, so time for the negatives. The first I have is that the game is a little glitchy. Don't get me wrong, it is stable, like I mentioned earlier, but it does have a few glitches. None really game-breaking, or really, to be honest, not that noticeable either, which for an early access game is pretty awesome. But still, there were a few things, and I felt I just had to mention them. Resource numbers not matching up to what I have or what I'm using. Like, I have 60, I used 20 to build this. Why now do I only have 30? Like, did something happen that I missed? I don't know, but it feels like it shouldn't have worked that way. I went to build a tower which required 2 guns, which I had, but the tower, after it was built, didn't have any guns. In fact, they were just gone. I don't really know what happened there. My guys will find a gun in a random building, but despite me looking everywhere for it afterwards, including the building they found it in, the car, their inventory, and my base, I can't find it. So, did it disappear? Did they equip it? It didn't look like it. I don't know what happened. It doesn't. They still say they got 4 pistols, so I don't know where that gun went. But it's early access, and these bugs are so small and minor that, you know, I barely even wanted to mention it, but I felt I had to because I want to be honest. Also, how do I switch my squad's guns? Like, they all have pistols, but I did find an assault rifle in my second playthrough, and this time it didn't disappear. So, how do I give it to them? I have no idea. And the last negative I have is simply that the game isn't finished yet. It's an early access, and I want more. This shouldn't even be a negative. It means that I like the game so much that I don't want it to be finished with it. I don't want to be finished with it because I ran out of content. So, early access. Finish the game. Yeah, that's my negative. I mean, I just can't think of anything else negative to say about this game. The combat works well and is stressful as you'd like it to be. The building mechanic works and feels good. The scavenging mechanic works and feels good. Just everything about this game felt intuitive, well put together, and well worth my time and money. Let's wrap this up. If you haven't guessed by now, I love the game. It's so intuitive and immersive and interesting. It's unique and well put together, all at an affordable price with some really different ideas, great voice acting, good graphics, and plans on how it was developed. I would highly recommend anyone who sees this video to go check this game out and give it a chance. Even if it looks a bit too hard for you, you can just adjust each level's difficulty with horde numbers, resource rarity, and other factors that you can edit before you begin the match that will give you either a more challenging run or an easier casual run. I mean, for $25 and for an early access game, this is an investment you don't want to miss out on. My recommendation, totally worth it. You're not wasting your money, you're not wasting your time, so stop watching this video and go support this game and these developers. Alright? Alright, now I'm going to go back to playing this amazing game, and I'm so happy it finally came out and that it was as awesome as I was hoping it would be. In fact, more so, because there's a lot here that I was not expecting. So, thanks so much to everybody who decided to check out my video, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around till the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.